adapting to our current situation, like in our education, which is digital citizenship. Of course, digital citizenship has its own definitions and then many things around it, but the part that I'm going to focus is how can we apply this in our educational setting. So now the outline is, first of all, I'd like to give an introduction or a definition of what would be a digital citizenship, and then that concept in educational settings, and then there are 9 elements that without which we cannot discuss digital citizenship. So we have to talk about these 9 elements. And of course, these 9 elements have been recategorized, and there are 6 topics, 6 core elements, which is the same thing, or something else called the 3 S's. So I'll go over each of them. And then there's also a different frame for the 9 elements, and then a conclusion and new citizenship. So I would like my presentation to be interactive. So I'm going over this topic, which with a bunch of questions and then some examples, and then I would like to have interaction with you and then add your opinions to it. So, and then, okay, so what's digital citizenship? So, each and every individual here, so we do commenting on social media website, we use text on a daily basis, or let's say this is part of our life, direct messaging, posting, and then recording whether a video for an entertainment website, recording a video for a lesson, a course that we have, or just a funny video, or sharing a funny video on a social media platform, and completing an assignment. So using a digital tool, whether in an educational setting or outside educational settings, or keeping in touch with friends, tools that we are using, or keeping in touch. So creating and collaborating on projects together. All of this, when we as educators or as students using this or doing all of these, so we have to use technology. And using technology in this digital world for whatever purpose makes us digital citizens. Makes us digital citizens. But there's a whole lot other things that going around this concept. So now, before we go to digital citizenship, let's talk about what do we mean by citizen. We all know the simple definition of citizen is someone who has allegiance to a country, a state, a group, a collective, or people who shares responsibilities and rights. I am an Iraqi citizen, so I have rights and responsibilities. My rights are, for example, I have the right to freedom of speech. I have the right of studying freely, and then of course I have responsibilities. When it comes to times I have to defend this country. So now the same concept is reinforced in the digital world. So when we interact in a world with digital technology, we have rights and responsibilities. A common definition for digital citizenship would be the ability to participate safely, intelligently, productively, responsibly in the digital world. So there are some keywords which we are going to address in our next slides, like safety in a digital world, and then how do we use this digital world, how are we going to be intelligent or wise when using this technology, and then being productive, and then being responsible, and then many other things. So now, applying this, let's say addressing this in an educational setting. So we have students we interact with on a daily basis. And then the students, they use technology. So they are a part of this digital world. Now, the students from the first grade till the students of the higher education, they are a part of this digital world. So it's something that they are interacted with. They have been a part of this world. Now, when they use this, they face two things. So they have opportunities being a part of this world. You have either opportunities and also you have challenges. So the opportunities could be like browsing, searching, downloading, texting, creating content, communication, many other things. We have a long list. At the same time, students have challenges like how to stay safe, cyberbullying. How do we protect students from getting cyberbullied? And we'll talk about this, what's cyberbullying. And then keeping privacy. So we have our data, information, pictures, photos on our tools and devices, how we can keep privacy of these information. And then hate speech. So when we go on social media, we see that this has been a routine, a part of our digital media. And then misinformation. That's the biggest problem, like fake news or having just misleading information. And then, of course, digital distractions, which is the major dilemma, the major challenges. We all, as educators in the classroom, facing this, the students, the cell phones that they have in their hand, how can be distracted in the classroom while we teach. So now, when we have a world, and then the world has opportunities and challenges, then there's gotta be rules, regulations, or some guidelines. If not, we can have a world without a world without, let's say, a world that does not, let's say, having benefit for everybody. So students facing these opportunities and their challenges, of course, when they use these tools, at the same time, they misuse and then they also abuse the tools. For example, sharing passwords with others, that's a misuse of the tools in the digital world. And then clicking on all links, it's also a misuse. Using text messages, social networking sites to intimidate, that's the abuse of the tools. And then threatening students anonymously. Using Snapchat filters to shame colleagues. These are the abuse of the tools, or this digital world. And now using social networking website, for example, Facebook, to complain about teachers, so publicly. This is also, say, the abuse of using this tool. And then getting addicted to or staying up all night on the devices they have. That's also a problem. And then the problem is with their well-being, the psychological and then the health well-being. And then texting, playing video games during class time. This is so the misuse and the abuse of the tools. So now when we have these problems, so the educators, they have decided to come up with some guidelines to address all these issues. All these issues, they are related to a part of this digital world. And then we'll talk about this in a second. So now, the educators say we can decide an acceptable behavior should be the norm in this digital world, or we can decide that digital technology should be used for the benefit of all. So which one? Of course, the second one. So for that reason, 9 elements have been designed or have been concluded to address these issues that face the students or the educators in an educational setting. And then, so they are designed to understand the complexity of digital citizenship. And then these are the 9 elements. The first one is digital access, digital commerce, digital communication, digital literacy, digital etiquette, digital law, rights and responsibilities, digital health and wellness, digital security. I'd like to address each of them really quick with questions and then examples, rather than just me talking, so we can have an interactive discussions together. So the first element, digital access, which means full electronic participation in society. So we can ask the question, does everybody in your school, by school means any educational setting, have equal opportunities of technology use? For example, if a teacher, an educator asks a student to prepare a presentation, does that student have access to a laptop, for example, an internet connection? So the first thing that we need to address is the students have to have equal access to the technology. Or do all students have the opportunity to be involved in digital society? Okay, that digital society, so considering socioeconomic status, disability, and their physical locations. So probably, I think this one could probably, I mean, speaking from the experience that I'm having at teaching international universities, almost all students have access to proper, or let's say, decent internet connection. But not all of them have, let's say, a laptop for preparing a presentation at home. However, I'm sure here the university provide a lab, students can go and then do their work on the lab. So that's important for all educational settings or educational institutions to provide that for students equally. And then another element is, are students aware of the opportunities, problems associated with purchasing items using digital technology? Of course, digital commerce, electronic buying and selling of goods. And then another question would be, should students be made aware of how to purchase goods and services through digital formats? Do you think this is an issue in our society, do you think this is an issue, or this is something that we are getting into? What do you think about this one? Because living in a country in the Western world where everything is digitalized, everything is online, buying and selling. Here, I am not sure this is something that we are into it right now, but we are getting there. For example, the credit card system is not something as prevalent as in the Western world. But there are people having that and then dealing with online buying and selling. So teaching students on how to interact on online buying and selling is an important thing to know. And then buying through commercial website, usually the one that we have is buying through social media platforms, using a phone call and then they come to your door. But interacting through an electronic website, putting your credit card information, it's something they need to be aware of. For example, media subscriptions and iTunes subscription, music subscriptions, or for example, Netflix subscription is something they need to be aware of. That's just an example. And then technology and identity theft. So they should be aware of their credit card information should not be stolen by other people. This is, I'm going to go over this. The 9 elements that we have should, it's not equally important to your institution, to your society. Some of them are very important to address, but some of them maybe it's not applicable to the current situation of our institution. So digital commerce might be one of those that we are not fully there yet, but we are getting there. And if we teach our students in a way, or if we integrate, for example, this digital citizenship into our programs, curriculums, whether standalone or through integration, then this has to be something to teach prior getting to the park. The third one, digital communication, electronic exchange of information. So we all use email, cell phone, texting, and social networking technology. Are we using them appropriately? We as educators, also the students. And what rules, options, ethics do students need to be aware of? Okay, so how many of you here using a digital tool in your classroom with the students? Okay, so you're using
quite many. Well, emails mostly nowadays.
Emails, okay.
Same here, email.
And then any Edmodo, okay. Zoom. And do we use group chats, Viber, and then WhatsApp? We use that. So, I mean, this is something that we use. I'm sure every institution uses this with the students. Maybe WhatsApp is the best.
Can I share something?
Yes.
I think 2 years ago, I had a meeting with my students on Zoom. I think some of the students got the link and sent it to other people outside the meeting. So I was hearing some voices like the first year students when they come to class, they shout, okay? So I was hearing, I thought that this is the background noise. Maybe some students are in the university and the background noise is coming. When I said, what is this voice? The student directly went out of the meeting. He was inside the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, he was, because they were first year students, he was shouting, click, click. Yeah. Okay. This was an experience that I told the department that this is happening. Please tell the students to behave well. And
so that's a good example, actually, showing 2 points. First of all, what information a student should keep for himself or shared with others. We will talk about this, digital privacy and security. Also, the digital etiquette of the students. So if that student is taught how to behave during this, then that wouldn't happen, for example.
And it might be not the student from the same class, maybe outside the university, maybe.
Yes, so what rules, options, ethics do students need to be aware of? This is something we need to teach them, actually, while we use these tools. So student texting, social media during class, also something that we need to address, because while they use the digital communication to exchange information, so sometimes they misuse that, they abuse that, so they use this during the class, or they use text messages for cheating in the exam. They have having class groups. So this is the problem where sometimes the issues happen in the classroom inside the group text. Some students say certain things which gets other students angry, and then it leads to other issues in the classroom. So it's very important we as educators address these issues. And then at the end of the presentation, I may have a discussion. How can we integrate this into our curriculum? So this is whether we can use it in each individual lessons, or we have a standalone, let's say, course that makes students take the course and they learn about this. The fourth element is the digital literacy, teaching and learning about technology and its use. So I think that's one of the most important ones, is enough time devoted to learning how to use technology tools in the classroom. So students from using a PowerPoint slide, preparing a Word document, and then making a poster, a digital poster. So all these things, are students have enough information, or are they literate enough to make these things? That's one of these. And then how students use digital technology to best take advantage of educational opportunities available to them. So using this technology to take advantage, not to make harms to themselves or to the others. For example, giving credit to other people's work when they use. And so citation, knowing how to find credible information. That's an important thing. So you give them a task, how they can find credible information for the task that you are giving to them. And then avoid being fooled by hoaxes and then fake news. So this is on the social networking level, or sometimes just rumors circulating among the students. Someone says something on a student and it's circulating without being true. So how to teach this student to find the source of information and then make sure that this information coming from correct or not correct person. Digital etiquette, electronic standards of conduct and procedure. Are students aware of others when they use technology? And then do students realize that how they use the technology affects others? So this part is when you're digitally interacting, then how do you care about others? Not just you, it's others around you. So contextually appropriate whether those that you use, and then putting stop to online meanness. You see someone is mean to someone else, cyberbullying, and then inflammatory language in a group chat, or sometimes digital drama. Digital drama is when the few students, close friends, they have hot discussion on a trivial point, and then it leads to a point where they it gets serious, and then the relationship gets bad.
Sorry, what do you mean by inflammatory language?
Inflammatory language, a language that inflames others, makes others mad. I'm in a group chat, I say something which the aim is to hurt someone in the same group chat indirectly. Or on the social media, I'm trying to post something so to hurt someone, a friend of mine, a colleague. So then using an inflammatory language, a provocative language, a language that makes them angry. Yes. Identity theft on social media, creating fake accounts. We've been experiencing this in our institutions. For example, there has been accounts created on social media in name of others without that person being aware of. And then posts have been posted on accounts in name of that person. This is a big issue. So talking from our experience in our institution, this happens. So digital law. So this one, when students does something inside the institution or outside, hurting someone in a way, is there a consequence for that student? The consequence, whether is that student being does he get punished, or does he get something for what he's doing? For example, using file sharing websites. This is something, I think in our country, it's something because it's not regulated by law. So I'm sure even on the administrative level, this is, we use that. We say we break this law. Sometimes we download things from illegal websites, an article, for example, and then hacking into systems. There are students, they write scripts and then hacking into the systems to change the grades, and then sharing illicit, inappropriate photos. So there should be a law inside the institution and outside the institution to address this issue. Do we have that in our society, for example? Do we have that? Are you aware of having this?
There might be, but it's not applied.
There's something, we have something called the misuse of digital media.
Yes.
There are the journals have been jailed for abusing this.
It's an
But-
on the paper, but not being
Yes.
applied.
But then talking on the institution level, for example, if someone does something like that, sharing illicit, inappropriate photo. So someone have taken a photo and put an ugly Snapchat filter and then circulating with students. What is the consequence of this act? Does they say the department has something? Does they say the student has a handbook has addressing this issue? Or is there a consequence? This is something needs to be addressed. First, the student needs to be taught, and then there has to be rules and regulations to address this issue. Digital rights and responsibilities. Those freedoms extended to everyone in digital media. Okay? What right and responsibility do students have in digital society? How do you make students aware of their rights and responsibilities? For example, following students' handbook. So how do we teach the students what they have, what their rights are, what their responsibilities are? Okay, so having the students follow the handbook or read the handbook is important. There are institutions that they have AUP, acceptable use policy. And then citing sources, and then reporting cyberbullying threats. So they need to be aware of their rights. At the same time, they need to be aware of their responsibility. If they see a friend of theirs getting cyberbullied, they need to, that's their responsibility, to report this to the administration. And then also, citing sources is a responsibility. When you use a source, you have to cite it, that's a responsibility. Okay, digital health and wellness, physical and psychological well-being. How can students be physically affected by technology? Okay, do you think our students are affected by technology nowadays? How? How? Can you give me an example?
Health problems. They spend hours.
Okay, so spend too many hours and? Okay, so the important. Okay, so they get isolated. And then if you're speaking from younger ages, so students get addicted to video games. Yes?
Do you think development language, motivational
That's a good one. So watching too many videos in a different language makes them forget, let's say, or using the proper language of their mother tongue.
Yes.
As we see nowadays with our kids. Okay, so now the health effects of screen time. Screen time is the biggest issue. So I have students. We had a class about technology in our reading class. So this was a topic of one of the topics, and then I asked them if you can tell me your screen time. So 8 hours a day was the minimum. And I had a student had a day 21 hours screen time, and then first year of college. That's a serious issue. And then internet, digital media, device addiction. So addiction is a problem that we can call. The importance of having device-free moments. It's very important. We as educators, let's say, make the student understand it's very important if you have a device-free moments in your life. Have a social gathering at a park, outside, say at a tea house, and then at a friend's house, going to mountains, hiking. It's very important to teach them this is an important part of their life as well. It's not like that. I have students in my classroom, I can tell 5 of them. So the cell phone is like their third hand. They can't have a moment without their cell phones. So this is an important thing that if we teach the students, our students, how to interact with this. And then also finding a balance in the digital world. Okay, so there's a world, we never say that you can use it, but you can use it, but you have to find a balance between the digital world and then the real world. Okay, the times. So this is this one, and the last one, digital security. Electronic precautions and guarantee safety. How students protect their technology in digital society. For example, how can they protect their devices? They have their personal data. How can they protect their, let's say, their accounts, the school accounts and then other accounts? And then, so the way that we need to teach them that. A strong password, for example, is something that we need to teach them. And then what kind of information should I keep to myself when I use internet? So there are certain information you have to keep it only to yourself, not to give to anybody. And then I'm sure there are students even at the college level, they don't know how to do that. Okay, and what information about you is okay to share online? So with the age of social networking platforms, we can see seconds by seconds of the life of the teenagers of us on social media. It's very important what to put on social media or not to put there. Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and everything. And then clickbait phishing. It's important to tell them that there are certain links called clickbait. You click on them and then they gather information about you. So there's a pair of shoes, nice and shiny and cheap, you click on it. And then there's something called big data. They collect information about your age, your location, then they send specialized ads, customized ads to you based on the click that you made on that. So it's a bait. And then phishing. So sending links which leads you to something suspicious or malicious. And this happens a lot nowadays on a daily basis. So it's important if we teach this to our students. That's the 9 elements. So as I said, the educators have categorized these 9 elements under 6 categories. And this 6th category, for example, if we design a curriculum, let's say a course for digital citizenship, that would be a perfect way to set it up. The first one, media balance and well-being. So the 9 one, there are two of the elements can go under this, finding a balance in our digital lives. And why they put that here? Because ourselves is the priority. We have to have a balance in our life. So first they need to be taught how to make a balance for themselves. And the second one, privacy and security. After you're having a balance, then you need the privacy of the information, the thing that you're using. That's the second level. And the third level, digital footprint and identity. So the definition of who we are. So usually the persons on social media are different, or in the digital world usually are different from the persons are in the real world. So what's the identity that you kept on your digital media world, digital world? Is it the same as the one that you have in the real world or not? So first and third, that's the third level. And then the fourth level is after we care about ourselves, well-being, and then privacy, and then our identity, then we need to care about the others. So knowing the power of words and actions, relationships and communication. That's the fourth level. The fifth level, cyberbullying, digital drama, and hate speech. And they put it as a category because this is an inevitable part of our world now. Digital citizenship, being in a digital world, cyberbullying, hate speech, and then digital drama, these things, it's a part we cannot avoid. That's why it needs to be addressed. When we see them, what should we do? How can we prevent them? So it's a part which is above the relationship and communication. And the last one, we get to a point of become a critical thinkers. Then we care about news and media literacy. That's the last level. So if you compare this to a Bloom's taxonomy levels, it's kind of this similarity. So it goes from the lower level and then goes to the top. So this would make a perfect design for a curriculum if we address. So we cannot go to cyberbullying, let's say, a relationship if we do not care about our well-being. We cannot go to our identity if we don't know how to protect our privacy. And the same thing, we cannot go, let's say, you cannot be fluently digital if you do not have the other informations. And at the same time, so these 6, or say the 9 elements, they categorize under the 6. At the same time, there are other educators. They have categorized it under 3 S's. The first one is safe, savvy, and then social. So what do we mean by safe? protect yourself and then others. So these are the main guiding principles that encompasses the 9 elements and then the 6 categories. Educate yourself and educate others. Sabi, and the socials is respect yourself and then respect others. So if you address these 3, that's the core, the main guiding principles behind the 9 elements. It's these 3 S's. So if we put it in all the 3 next to each other, so safe, media balance and well-being, and privacy security, and then here we have digital rights responsibility, digital security, and digital health and welfare. And then savvy, news media literacy, digital footprint identity, and then we have digital communication collaboration, digital fluency or literacy, which is used interchangeably, and then digital commerce. And then the last one, social, cyberbullying, digital drama and hate speech, relationships, communication, and then digital etiquette, access, and digital law. So that's how we can see them side by side. Okay, so there is so speaking from an institution level. So if Teaching International University decided to have a course, let's say, or in the future maybe the Ministry of Higher Education, the Ministry of Education decided to integrate something like this in the curriculum. So there are levels of each element. So they have been divided into categories, and then it's typical to the educational setting. For example, there is a level directly affects the student learning and academic performance. For example, digital access to internet and technology. It directly affects the students' learning. Digital communication, the way it communicates with the surroundings, and then digital literacy, that directly affects the circle that's the student. Second level affects the overall school environment, which is rights, responsibilities, digital etiquette, and digital security. And then the third level affects the student's life outside school environment. So it's like digital commerce, digital law, and then digital health and wellness. So that doesn't mean that they are unrelated. No, they are related in a really complex way. So they are all related, but on the different levels, it can be addressed by the institution. And then if we design a curriculum like this, then we can improve the learning outcomes and preparing our students for this digital world, which is the 21st century, world. And now the conclusion, so the digital world has changed the way people behave in a real world. We all know that. And then digital citizenship access to a world with no physical boundaries, now students, digital citizenship. And then citizenship takes a new meaning. So it's global now. So you have a world without boundaries. We don't have a state or geographical nations or communities. It's a global. Now, so teaching this new citizenship becomes an essential need in education, I believe. And educators will help students understand the digital technology. And then digital citizenship is not a set of ironclad rules. It's not like you have to go, they say these 9 elements, you have to go one by one. It's so, it can be, there are concepts, it can be tailored based on the needs and then the importance, the seriousness of the field that needs to be addressed. And now the 9 elements are the starting point. So the 9 elements are starting point you can address, and then there's a whole new, let's say, deep world in each of these elements. There are ways to understand the issues of technology use, misuse, and abuse. So these 9 elements, it's how to address the use and misuse and abuse.